Welcome to the Farm to School podcast, where you will hear stories of how youth thrive and farmers prosper when we learn how to grow, cook, and eat delicious, nutritious local foods in schools across the country and the world. We're your hosts, Michelle Markiston.
And I'm Rick Sherman. And today we have a couple guests from the Fort Bragg, California area. We have Pilar Gray, who is the food service director from Fort Bragg Unified School District in Fort Bragg. And Beth Horkman is the director of operations for the NOYO Food Forest, also in Fort Bragg. So Beth and Pilar, welcome to the program.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to be here.
So our first questions, and how we like to ask is paint us a picture of your area and how did you get started in this field. So go ahead and tell us a little bit, Beth, how did you end up at the NOYO Food Forest? And also follow-up question.
What the heck's a food forest?
We hear that term. We heard that term thrown around a lot.
I want one. Too. I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
that
what is
amazing.
a food forest?
How did we not come up with that in Oregon? Nice job.
Awesome. Well, hi, thanks for having me. I found the Mendocino Coast in 2012. I'm originally from Wisconsin. And when I landed on the Mendocino Coast, I shortly was going to these Earth Day festivals that the NOYO Food Forest put on. And that's when I first learned about the NOYO Food Forest. And I was completely blown away just by the concept of school gardens. It was foreign to me. Coming from Wisconsin, we didn't have anything like it. And I admired how it connected students to food in such a direct, meaningful way. And when a position opened up, I applied and jumped into it and wanted to get started. And an amazing organization that's been around since 2006. And we're located on the Fort Bragg High School campus, which is really cool and unique.
So on school
it's about
property,
an acre
then.
farm. Yeah, we're right on the school property. And then I guess if we want to get into what a food forest exactly is, food forest mimics like a natural ecosystem with layers such as trees and berry bushes, edible ground cover, vines. And when you think of a traditional garden, you would think maybe of raised beds or rows of vegetables. A food forest is a long-term sustainable approach. It brings and supports our soil health, biodiversity, and we integrate both models here at NOYO Food Forest. It helps provide a full education on food systems.
Okay, thanks for that. I just have it in my mind, if Willy Wonka had a garden outside, it would be a food forest. It just brings that image up to my head. So
that's really and Pilar, I'm so curious. How does the food nutrition services at Fort Bragg Unified School District dovetail with the food forest or other activities?
Oh, well, they are our strongest partner in Farm to School. Fort Bragg, we're in a very rural coastal area that doesn't have a whole lot of farms out here. We're not in an agriculturally rich area. So it makes doing Farm to School a little bit more challenging. So to have our nonprofit partner right there on the high school grounds growing food for our school meals is amazing. It's such a gift to us. They've carried us just many times where we couldn't get from other local farms. It's right there. And the extra bonus is that our kids get to participate in it. Our students get out there and can actually help grow the food that they are eating at lunch.
And Pilar, tell us, how did you get to start? How long have you been a food service director? How did you end up in your role?
Well, it's a bit of an interesting story. I used to be a teacher, and I was from the Bay Area. And life changed, and I needed to take care of my mother. So we ended up moving to Fort Bragg. When we came up here, there were no teaching jobs opened. And the nutrition director at that time had suddenly resigned, and he was overseeing a nutrition education grant. Yes, they hired me to administer a nutrition education grant for the district, and I guess they liked what I did. because when I'm done, they offer me the nutrition services director position. Well, I had no idea what that was. I had no idea what I was getting into. They literally told me, oh, it's just ordering food and stuff. And so clearly they didn't know what I was getting into either.
Right. No, it's not. Okay.
So, yeah, and I thought, I'll do this until a teaching position opens up. I need a paycheck. Yeah. So I started doing it, and then I quickly realized how important this work is. We're particularly in a little town I guess in every town, we're feeding the town's children at school. And for a lot of these kids, particularly in a poorer district like ours, this is where they're getting a good portion of the food that they're eating, and often the healthiest food that they're eating. So, instead of being able to just support one classroom of kids, in this position, I'm able to support an entire district worth of kids and the community itself. It's a service to our families. So, I stuck with it. And 20 years later, I'm still doing it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for that. So I have a picture in my head now of both operations. I have the NOYO Food Forest. I have the Fort Bragg School District Nutrition Services. In our line of work, that is to say the farm to school work, we always say that's where the magic happens when you have a cafeteria and then you have a school garden or nutrition education about where your food comes from, and you get two different operations and they both work together, which is what we have here. And this is these are our favorite things to delve into. We've had a couple other episodes where this happens, and it's like I said, it's like a wonderful magical thing that happens. But how did that come about for your two operations to work together? How did that happen?
Well, that started back in 2006. When I first started this district, excuse me, we had a school garden at two of our elementary sites. They each had a garden. There was none at our middle school or none at our high school. Well, the school gardens really excited me as an educator and now a nutrition director, because as you've already mentioned, if kids work with the food, if they grow the food, then they're going to want to eat it. It's an entire process. So, I really wanted a garden at every school site. Well, one day, a woman named Susan Lightfoot walked into my office, excuse me, and she asked me about wanting to start a school garden at the high school. What happened is she and two other women, Kat Aschenberger and Kim Morgan, were sitting around one day, wanted to do something great for the community. And their thought was, well, hey, we all got to eat. Let's do something around a community garden. They wanted to build a community garden. So they started looking for land. And they were pointed in the direction of the school district after talking to a number of people, because we had an old agriculture department that had not been used in years. So it was just kind of sitting there in disrepair. The buildings were dilapidated. The garden area was literally just a field of weeds, 5 feet tall weeds. There was just nothing happening. So we thought, well, maybe you could use that space. And my superintendent at the time, Steve Long, was very supportive of the idea. He asked me, well, what do you think? I said, well, if they do it, I want them to grow food for the school meals. So they did it. They came in. It was an entire volunteer base at the beginning. And everyone got out there and just revived the physical environment, turned it into a working farm. We were able, through regional occupational program funding at the time, start an organic garden class at the high school. And so we got the kids in there growing food that was going into their school meals. And the entire time, the nonprofit developed and has stuck with it. So that was the beginning of the food force in our relationship.
And I kind of remember that, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Wasn't it around 2005, 2006, 2007? It was close to 20 years ago.
2006.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep, 2006.
Right.
So how can we get... How did that happen in your place, and why isn't there a farm in every school district across the country? What was so special where that, if we could bottle this and sell it, we would, right? It's it's our dream. I wonder, and I don't know, you don't have to have an answer for that, but
I think the answer is passionate people. This work happens by people who care, people who are willing to go above and beyond the basic necessities of their work. You know, and so this was
Food
this
sovereignty.
this is a work of love.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and the more we talk about it, and hence this is one of the reasons why Michelle and I created this program, to get the word out there. And so, baby steps, right? A lot of people don't even know it's an option that we can do this in schools. We can grow food for our kids, in a meaningful way.
What's one thing you want everyone to know about the work you're doing?
I think that it's really impactful on students and then the community as a whole. It's a gathering spot, and I think a community garden, a school garden that really just brings it into a clear vision of what's important. And what's important is, controlling our local food systems and food sovereignty and teaching the youth.
You mentioned the community and stuff. How do you get the word out? How do you get the community to know about what you're doing there?
Well, each year around Earth Day, the weekend of Earth Day, we do an Earth Day festival. It's one of the largest on the North Coast. Last year we had 1,200 participants people come through. It's a free family event. We have over last year 36 local nonprofits doing earth-friendly kid activities and representation of their work, live music and food, and just different workshops and panels on such as restoring an ecosystem. So we're known a lot for that, and then we're known that brings in an understanding of the work we do. And then all the parents and students that attend these the school district schools are aware of us and the food that we're bringing into the cafeterias.
And being close to the coast, I'm just curious, are you able to bring seafood into your schools?
Interesting that you asked that. Because we are in March bringing back a Fish to Fork program here at Fort Bragg Unified. We did one years ago with the Fort Bragg Groundfish Association, where we were able to get bycatch, which if you're not familiar with that, when they go for groundfish, they often collect species they didn't intend to, but often just get tossed back. And so, but a lot of them they're perfectly edible, very good, nothing wrong with it. It's just not necessarily marketable. So we were able to purchase that through, for rock bottom price. And so we did that for a number of years. And we had to stop because of some severe fish allergies we had in a family of kids. Yeah, so much so they couldn't be in a building when it was cooking. It was an awful thing, but we stopped. And well, a number of years have passed now, and those kids have grown on, and so we're starting again. But this time in partnership with the NOYO Harbor District. So yep, so we're going to be getting local fish right off our harbor and serving it at school.
And how are you serving that?
The most popular ways is fish and chips. We do not fry anything. It's all oven baked, but we've got a way of doing it so it mocks a fry very well. I mean, it comes out crispy, crunchy, coating, and with oven baked fries and coleslaw, and fish tacos is the other thing that they like. And we're going to experiment maybe with some other new recipes, but those go-to favorites are the ones the kids seem to prefer.
Yeah. And then when you mentioned you do it in partnership with others, what role do your partners play in bringing something like that to the students?
Well, first sourcing the fish for us, making the connections to the fisher people down in the harbor, and then getting it to our local processors, and then getting it into delivering it to us. So they're helping with the procurement and the delivery. And they're also, what they're going to be doing this year, which is particularly exciting, is education for our students. Which we did was the missing piece last time, and it's such an important piece. So they're going to bring in our harbor master, Anna. She's going to come, and she's going to bring some other fisher people to come talk to us kids in classes about our harbor, what it does, what it means to, what the fishing industry is all about, why it's important to do sustainable fishing, and the health benefits of eating fish. And hey, kids, go eat it at the cafeteria. So very exciting.
That really does make a difference. So you're bringing fisher people into the classrooms, and then they're having experience to taste and try the food. So how does that compare to what you're doing with the food forest? Do students go out there, or does the farm come into the school? Paint us a picture of the practicalities of partnering together.
Beth, you want to take that one or you want me to?
I can take it. Yeah. Well, how right now through the really sweet, we secured a garden educator here at NOYO Food Forest. In the past, we've had garden educators, but through funding, it hasn't proven itself to be sustainable. But we've had our garden educator, Katie, with us now for quite some time. She did our summer internship program. And now she's working with career technical education classes at the high school. We secured her position through the funding, the CDFA grant. We wrote in her position to pay for this important piece of the puzzle with school to garden, school to farm, farm to school program. So we have students coming in the garden, and she's also going to their classrooms teaching horticulture and soil chemistry and regenerative practices that we do in the garden. Yeah.
And that's on the also in the school district, we have a full-time garden educator, Iris, who operates and teaches of both of our elementary sites. She takes care of those two gardens and provides garden classes to every one of the students there. We have a farm now also at the middle school and farm to table class there, and an ag teacher, career technical education ag teacher. And that's a feeder program to our high school ag and FFA department. We also have a high school ag teacher there who does horticulture. Mm-hmm. So we have, and those students there also work with the food forest. They go into the garden over there as well. So we're integrating all of our programs.
So this program it's on the high school campus. Is this program just for that grade level, or do the other grades get to take advantage of this as well?
Well, every school has its own garden that they can participate in, but we do have students going over to the high school farm as well. Alternative education site particularly brings kids over quite a bit. One of our elementary schools is directly across the street from the high school, so it's easy for teachers to take their kids over there to see the farm. And sometimes our elementary garden teacher will make it part of her class to take the students over there. And sometimes the NOYO Food Forest itself will just host, an event there for the children to come over and participate in.
Okay.
So is this part of I'm just trying to think, how does it fit into the school day? Because, and this is kind of so amazing too, that you were in classroom teacher, educator, because, there's limited bell time, right? The time students have for different things. And so how is the garden time and food forest time framed? Is it math? Is it science? Is it character development, etc.?
Well, Katie, our garden educator, works directly with the teachers. They do preps and meetings ahead of time. And sometimes Katie will go over to the ag department and teach classes there. If the students are coming into the garden, it is a short walk. We're literally on campus. And the Fort Bragg High School is an open campus concept. So students are walking outside to different classrooms and buildings already. And yeah, it takes some planning, but you're right. I these bell schedules too, they're very short, these class periods.
Right.
Like 40-some minutes. It's through planning and talk through the lessons to be planned and getting active. So
the beauty of garden enhanced nutrition education is that you can apply it to just about any curriculum subject. You got your science in there. You can go out there. You can do literature. You can do history. You can do nutrition education, of course, which is important to kids. And so there's art. You can really make the connections out there. We also have a Harvest of the Month program here at the district, and the educational materials that come with that all have state standard-based lessons attached to it around a produce item of the month, whatever it happens to be. This month is dry beans, for example. So, it's quite easy to get a kid out in the garden and meet your curriculum needs. And it's also just good for, social emotional learning. And we have, for the elementaries, just logistically, it's built into their schedule. They have different pull-out times, I guess is what you would call it. It's garden day. You go to the garden. Maybe the next week it's music or something else. So it's just one of those classes.
Oh.
And so the classrooms, it's built into their schedule.
It's just how you all do business. You mentioned social?
Yeah.
That's really unique, actually. Social emotional learning. Do you work with school counselors at all?
We have school counselors. I don't necessarily personally work with them, but yes, we have them.
I've used the resources of school counselors to work with students to get into our summer internship program. And they've helped us with interviewing, processing, for students to come over the summer and do an internship in the garden. So I've worked with counselors in that degree.
Oh, so more in the career counseling capacity of a school counselor, because they do lots of things, but one of them is career counseling. That's so interesting.
And so for you two to wrap this up, we're thinking, well, we'd like to ask you, what do you see the future for your work? And maybe like, if you had an unlimited budget, what would you do next? Would you just stay the course doing what you're doing now? Would you expand? What's next? It's like a blank check for you guys. So you can think of anything.
Well, we're really excited to sort of secure the garden educator position and to help the agriculture teachers and teach horticulture and regenerative farming practices. And we really are wanting to produce more food for the school cafeteria systems. We're mainly in the high school, but we want to get more into the middle school and more into the grade schools as well. And the CDFA grant that we were awarded really helped us being able to put in more efficient methods and better equipment and bigger greenhouse to be able to produce more food. So that's where I'm at.
Okay.
Yeah, we're growing a really strong working relationship between our nonprofit partner, the NOYO Food Forest, our district's Revive Agriculture Department and FFA programs, our culinary arts department, and also our school nutrition services. So to me, the future is just keep building those relationships so it's sustainable. Because I'm just a huge fan of students growing food that they eat in their school meals. It's just a win-win on every level. Mm-hmm. And both the NOYO Food Forest and Fort Bragg Unified School District, we each received separate California Department of Food and Agriculture grants this year to support and expand our farm to school work. Because we've been doing this for decades. So our we're a proven model here. And so a good portion of that is used to improve our infrastructure. Since we have been doing it for decades, a lot of stuff needs repair at the time.
Yeah.
And to bring in some equipment and other things to increase our efficiency so that we can produce more and get more food into the school meals.
I saw you had a wish list on your website, which we'll leave a link to your website in our show notes. But you need some gates, I saw, and things. Too.
Yeah, definitely. That hasn't been updated for a little bit,
okay.
But our wish list stuff. We had an extensive wish list with supplies through our grant writing. But yeah, no, we could definitely use some gates in certain areas and. Yeah, always improvements, infrastructure.
Yes,
100%.
Well, we're huge fans of kids growing food that they eat in the cafeteria, and I'm just so grateful for the incredible work you both do in making happy, healthy kids. Yeah, thank you.
And thank you for your interest and for getting the word out to the people. It should be the norm.
100%.
Okay, thank you guys so much. We'd like to thank everybody for listening today. Farm to School was written, directed, and produced by Rick Sherman and Michelle Markiston with a help from Leanne Locker of Oregon State University and was made possible by a grant from the United States Department of Agriculture.
The content and ideas of the Farm to School podcast do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Oregon State University, Oregon Department of Education, and the United States Department of Agriculture. The USDA, Oregon Department of Ed, and Oregon State University are equal opportunity providers and employers.
Do you want to learn more about Farm to School? Check out other episodes, show notes, contact information, and much more by searching Farm to School Podcast OSU.
Yeah, we really love to hear from you. So please stop by OSU Farm to School Podcast.
And we'd love to hear from you. And please, if you have an idea for a future podcast, let us know.
We hear from lots of folks. That's how we find new people, like Beth and Pilar. Thank you both so
Thank
much for
you,
being
Beth and
on the
Pilar.
episode.
Thank you. I had a great time.
Yay, Fort Bragg.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.